freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round one recap pod for this week's Players Championship. And joining me to break it all down, it's Kyle Porter. KP, I'm stoked. I know you're stoked.
Yeah, today was awesome. We thought it would be, and I feel like golf is not. It's a pretty tame, benign sport, and then you throw like 150 guys out there in a big tournament, and it's like just insane stuff happens all day. I don't know. Like, do you feel that? Like, is that the sense that you get from watching this stuff all the time?
I felt today was chaotic, like particularly chaotic. And that comes from, we watch Jordan Spieth all the time, so we know chaos, but you're right. The size of the field, like the 154 guys off split tees from literally my time, 3:30 this morning until 3:30 at night. Like it's chaotic. And then to see guys struggling, to see the course play as hard as it did, like, yeah, I'm almost exhausted from watching golf today.
Well, and we were up early. We were yelling at each other at like 4 a.m. your time about Victor Hovland getting a drop on 11. That was nonsense. Like that was just, and not on. I'm not. That's not.
No.
I'm saying that as if it's against Hovland. The rules official, whatever was going on there was insane, and he almost got like a really kind of bad deal. And then he got a penalty later on, which I guess we can. How are we going to keep this 15 minutes? We could go like an hour just on Hovland stuff.
Yeah, we'll do our best, but producer Jacob, don't get your hopes up. Let's jump into this. But before we do, it is March, and we got bracket games coming for you. And you can create a pool to compete against your friends or fill out your bracket for a chance to win a Nissan Rogue and a trip to the 2022 Final Four. You can play on the CBS Sports app or at cbssports.com/brackets. We also have a group. It's our podcast group. It's called the Official First Cut Podcast Bracket Game. A link is in the description. And while our legal team tells me we cannot give away prizes, if your username happens to match your Twitter handle and we happen to reach out to you if you win, that might be a good idea. So take that for what it's worth. And take this. The Players Championship, round one, almost in the books. We've got we got some guys out there who have some holes to play. They have now suspended due to darkness. They probably have 45 minutes or an hour on Saturday morning to complete round number one. But let's talk about Sawgrass at the top here, KP. It's playing tough. It is currently on pace for around a 74 scoring average, which would be the most difficult opening round at TPC Sawgrass since 2007. And I think a lot of it comes from, I guess they're talking about these new greens that have been redone recently. 17 looks like a trampoline out there when a ball lands on it.
Yeah, it does. Did you hear what JT said about that, or see what he said about it?
I don't think I did.
So he said that, so what was weird was that Sergio was talking about how, Sergio shoots 65, and he's talking about how soft but fast the greens were, which I thought was really interesting because you always hear fast and firm or soft and slow. You don't hear soft, but also fast. And JT said, yes, I agree. But 17 was not soft. Like it was very different than the other 17 greens on the course, which he was like, he said something like, and we know why that is. The pin on 17 was sick. Mm-hmm. It was great. Like, and we'll get to Bryson here in a little bit, but some of the shots onto that back shelf, it was, I don't know. I thought it was, I'm not a huge 17 fan. I think it's generally overrated, but I thought on Thursday, I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and there was if I think the wind was going right to left, and if you got anything turning over in that wind direction, even if you landed it on the green, even if you got a couple hops on the green, it wasn't staying on there. I stopped counting or keeping track of how many balls were going in the water because we saw some ugly ones. We saw Kevin Na make an 8. He subsequently withdrew. Benny On took an 11 and then tagged himself in a meme. Did you see this, Kyle? Tagged himself in a meme.
Benny On is great. Low key, like the best PGA Tour guy on Twitter.
He's unbelievable, but it's Sergio Garcia, I guess with his eyes closed, shooting a 65, a 7 under in round number one. He's currently 2 shots clear of his next closest chaser. That's Brian Harman. And Sergio does it with a flurry at the finish line. He finishes 7, 8, and 9. Those are his last 3 holes of the day. Birdie, birdie, eagle, to go with another eagle that he had earlier in the round. This was very good from Sergio on Thursday.
Yeah, it was. And, this is, I think Justin Ray had the stat, 16 straight cuts made here for Sergio. Obviously, he's won here before. And, coming into this, I had him in one of my bets. I think it was like a top 20 or something. And the reason I did, I always go I always look at like, okay, who are the guys that are just hitting the ball well, especially at a place like this. And I didn't know if it would play as difficult as it did. I hope that it would, based on some of the sort of bets that I was looking at, because they were based on guys that are hitting the ball well. Sergio's been top 6 in the world from tee to green in 2021, which I didn't realize. Like I saw that number and I was like, oh, Sergio, I knew he'd been playing better, but he's hitting the ball, or he was hitting the ball really well coming in. And then he did so again on Thursday, and he made a bunch of, he putted, his putting was unbelievable. It was sort of the eagle he made on his last hole, the 9th on the course, was kind of emblematic of his day, right? Like he hits a great approach for a second shot into a par 5, then he hits a bomb to make for his second eagle of the round. So it was awesome. Do you trust him at the top? That was the thing I was thinking about as the day kind of wore on. Like, going into Friday, do you trust Sergio to kind of stay at the top of this board?
Interesting. I trust him for a while. I would love to see him get to 17 on Sunday with like a 1-shot lead and just like, let's watch that unfold and see what happens. But I think the ball striking, and we've talked about this before, like the over 3.5 strokes that he gained on Thursday, KP, on the putting greens, like those don't really go away. He's kind of built himself in a little cushion here. He is a great ball striker. If he continues to just do that over the course of the next 3 days, he has staying power. Even if he putts to, if he loses a half a stroke around over the next 3 rounds, like Sergio's probably still going to be in this thing. So that's why I think he has the staying power over some of these other guys that we might see.
Yeah. I think I do trust him, which is weird to say about somebody who has like 1 win on the PGA Tour in the last. He won the Sanderson. When did he win before that?
The Masters?
The Masters,
right?
Yeah. So
was that the previous one?
Yeah, so he has 1 win in the last 4 years, and I'm sitting here saying, man, I really trust him a lot, and it's Sergio. So I don't know, maybe I'm the moron, but I feel like he's the kind of guy that you get him into a space that's comfortable for him, and for whatever reason, Sawgrass is comfortable for him, and he just remembers how to do it, And so I think he's going to be in it. I don't know if he's going to win. I think he's in until the end.
He is indeed on your betting card. You have him in a top 20 at 3-1. So far, so good through round number 1. Colin Morikawa doing Colin Morikawa things, which is him gaining 3 strokes on approach, one of the best ball strikers of the day, and losing another 2.5 on the greens. And KP, I didn't even know what the number said. I watched every single shot that he hit on Thursday. He was not even close on the putting greens. This is that inconsistency. The reason that he tries out the new saw grip, the reason the first week he uses that grip, he's absolutely terrible. The second week he uses it, he wins the WGC workday. And here we go again. It just seems like he's very inconsistent at the moment with that flat stick.
Yeah, which I think I'm okay with, actually, because I think that inconsistent, we talked about this with Finau, like that inconsistency can lead to wins, because when you're hot in a week, it's, producer Jacob put it in the rundown. It's vincecarter.gif for Colin Morikawa. Somebody said this on Twitter. They said, do you think Colin Morikawa ever gets tired of hitting these like 3-foot cut shots to like exactly where he wants to hit them on every single green? I mean, his iron play on Thursday was, it was a show, and you kind of felt like it would be, because he played well here in the first round last year. Obviously, he's a great iron player, but it was pretty cool to watch. It was like the opposite of the putting.
I want to talk. So we're gonna, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about guys we like to make a move over the course of the next 3 days. How about Colin Morikawa, who he's 1 under, he lost 2.5 strokes putting. He was in the middle of the fairway on, I think it was 15, and dunks it in the water on his second shot.
That was a weird shot. It was terrible.
It's like the worst shot he's hit here's
in
a long time.
Yeah, it was for sure. But here's the thing. This is why we always go back to the Bryson stuff, because Bryson's 50 yards ahead of him, right? And he's hitting 9-iron in, and Morikawa's hitting, what was that, a 5-wood? Something like that into the green there. Now, he hit an awful shot, but just the margin for error, like that the distance can provide you, it's not massive, but you start adding it up over time. And it's meaningful. I mean, Morikawa has to be that good with his irons from distance with 5-wood, 3-wood, whatever, just to kind of keep up with where Bryson's at. And that's, I'm oversimplifying that, but I was thinking about that as you kind of watch them on 16 there.
Yeah, and it was 16, not 15, as I mentioned. It's the par 5 16th hole. Bryson DeChambeau, speaking of him, it's an opening round 69, which now marks his 8th consecutive round of par or better since he shot that opening 77 2 weeks ago at the concession. And there were times, specifically right there, that driver 9-iron, which Bryson made us all aware of. That's how he got home in a par 5. Like, that's the advantage. That's what he has been building towards. It's what we've seen rear its head at times and make him look like he's not human, and he's playing a different game than everybody else. And here he is again in contention of not a major championship, but a major championship with a small M.
Real quick on that, we can't keep doing the 9-iron thing. We have to. Somebody brought this up to me a couple months ago, and I just ignored it at the time. But it was, and so I don't remember who it was. It's a great point though. We got to do degrees of loft.
Correct.
Right. Like,
yeah,
you
he
could
have his 9-iron
on what. Yeah, whatever you want. Down. Yeah, so that gets a little old. Anyway, so Bryson solidly over at No Line Up pointed this out, and as I was watching, I was like, yeah, this is true. The shot he hit on 17, so right after he had 9-iron into 16, he hits this shot on 17 that he kind of stands up, like back left. That pin was back middle. And I was preparing jokes for like Bryson hitting it 40 yards past the green on 17, right? Like, because he gets up there and you're like, it just feels like he wants to hit it as far as he can, no matter where the pin is. But he stood up this wedge, I presume, on 17 to the back left, gave himself a 12-footer for birdie, which he made. And you're like, man, that's freaking impressive, right? Like, it's the driver stuff. I'll say it a million times. It gives you room for error, but to be able to putt like he's been putting, which was talked about all of last week, but also hit some of the wedges that he hits, that's unusual. And that's why he's a top 5 player in the world, and Kyle Berkshire is not, right? Like that is it's a meaningful thing that how good he is up and down the bag. And he's been like that forever. Like, he's been that way for the last 15 years through amateur golf, through NCAAs, winning the USAM, all these different things. So that, to me, like, yes, the driver stuff is impressive. He actually wasn't that great with driver on Thursday. I mean, in terms of
he was no Jordan Spieth, Kyle. I'll tell you that.
yeah, no kidding. But to kind of to tie it off on Bryson, like, iron play was super impressive, and that's how you're going to win a Players Championship.
I'm joking about the Spieth stuff, but listen, I'm not lying. What I'm about to say is factually true. Jordan Spieth led the field in strokes gained off the tee on Thursday, 2.1. It's his best single round. I dug through the database since the 2019 Open Championship round 2. So it's been quite some time. Obviously good things coming for Jordan Spieth. He's 2 under. He's in a tie for 11th at the moment.
Man, it looked easy too, right? Like, every driver he hit, I was like, oh. It was just, I mean, it wasn't even, he would hit it, pick up his tee, hit it, pick up his tee. It was just so fast. And you're like, what? Wait a second. Like, this is different than I've been watching for the last 5 years. We've got, maybe not 5 years, maybe 3 years. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, we got Data Golf's strokes gained off the tee page pulled up, and it wasn't even close, Rick. He dusted Paul Casey, Russell Knox. He was 4.5 strokes better off the tee than Rory. So if you're interested in stocking up on canned goods with the apocalypse upon us, that's a pretty good indication. So yeah, he was awesome off the tee, and I didn't see this coming at all from Spieth, either last week or this week. What are your thoughts? Because I talk about Spieth all the time. I want to hear what you have to say about just even last week leading into what he did on Thursday?
No, I'm a pretty big believer at this point. You know, when the iron play comes around, because I went back and looked. When we talk a lot about those 14 of his last 16 rounds he gains on approach, and I went back to look, and I was like, how often is he doing something like that? How, you know, has he in the last 3.5 years found 16 rounds, found 4 weeks where he has struck the ball like this? And the short answer is no, he hasn't.
No.
So like that right there is like, okay, great. That's awesome. And then we're just starting to see at least these incremental improvements with the driver, which we all know is the worst part. It's like, okay, well, he's still losing strokes, but at least he's hitting more fairways, or he's got a one-way miss. These things that sometimes they show up in the stat sheet, Kyle, and sometimes they don't. And then now to see, and the thing I keep going back to is Spieth. The biggest thing is the swag. And I know that I don't have a stat for it. And I know I can't put it in a model and I can't look at it, but like when he gets going, you can't stop him. And that's the scary part. And he's feeling it again. So I'm big on, like, I'm very, very bullish on where he's headed moving forward.
I thought producer Jacob said it best. He did a little preview for us on the editorial side. He wrote a little bit. Producer Jacob, 5 to a player. And he said that Rory got lost in the woods while trying to find Jordan Spieth. But
that's really good, like, producer Jacob.
I thought it was great. I was like, wow, you should just take over for me, maybe. But I thought that, I think you're right. Like, you watch Spieth and it just feels, he doesn't look like the lost boy anymore. You know, like he was like, you like, as bad as you can feel for somebody who's making, I don't know, $30 million a year, whatever the number is, who's won 3 majors, who's 27, who can do whatever he wants. Like, you felt bad for him because he just has to, they roll him out there every week. And it's like this, you know, song and dance, and it's not pretty. So it has been, the last month has been cool. And I was thinking about this, what better culmination to the first quarter of 2021? Like, it's been the through line. Like, everything else has revolved around Spieth at Phoenix, Spieth at Pebble, all these different things. He hasn't won, but everything else is revolved around it. What better cap to this first quarter than him winning the Players' Championship?
I also think it'll be awesome for when he does eventually win again. If it was a Players' Championship, if it was the Masters, not if it was, no offense to the Valero Texas Open or whatever, but like, just go out and win a biggie, and we can just shut everybody up, and it'll be a lot of fun. Like that.
Well, and for sure. And Trevor Immelman, brother of Mark. I don't know how I want to say that. Mark. Yeah. Trevor. I know Trevor is Mark's brother. He called it. He said on Twitter last week, Spieth's winning the Players. I was like, come on, dude. Like, he plays terrible there. It's not great for him. There's water on 16 holes or 17 holes or whatever it is. But like, even think about that line he took on 18. You're like,
oh my God.
I don't know if you meant to do that, but that's the swag you're talking about of like, hey, I'm Jordan Spieth. I can do whatever I want.
Okay. And real quick. So when the Seattle Seahawks were in their prime and Russell Wilson, they were like winning a Super Bowl, everything seemed to go their way. They'd get every fumble. They'd get every call. Like, it was their kind of swag. When Jordan's rolling well, he's got the swag, and things like that go his way, right? He carries that by 2 yards? I don't know what it was, but it was close. And like, things go his way, and it all builds on top of each other, and you look up and he's in contention again.
Yeah. No, that's you're right. I've got a quick Shane Lowry factoid. Can I slide this in?
Hit me.
So Shane Lowry shoots 68 in round 1. Last time he won professionally, well, we'll say on the PGA Tour. I don't know if he had a European Tour win in there. Rory opened with 79 and missed the cut. Rory today opens with 79, probably going to miss the cut. All 5 of Shane Lowry's professional wins have come when Jordan Spieth when Rory McIlroy was not playing on the weekend.
Wow. What is that? He Rory cedes the Irish stage to him?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, right? Like, so he won the 15 Bridgestone. Rory was out with his ankle thing when he was playing soccer.
Okay.
It's kind of weird. I started looking it up and I was like, oh, this is bizarre.
I have to make a little note of that for the next couple of days. That's very interesting. That is bizarre. I like that.
Producer Jacob wants to know how Seamus Power factors into all of this.
Everything just revolves around Seamus Power. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's awesome. No, I love that. Like these little factoids are the best thing ever. Two things. We've got to do the odds, but real quick, this Victor Hovland stuff. So he got what you were talking about this morning, which is he hits a shot into, I don't know what that par 5 is, because he started on 11. The back.
It was 11.
Okay, so it's 11. So it's his second hole of the day. Hits his approach, very clearly carries the water, but bounces back into it. And he's trying to figure out where it crosses. So they call a rules official. The rules official says, okay, he's got somebody on the radio who they're looking at it on video, and the guy on the radio, the rules official on the radio goes from, I don't know, I can't see from this angle, to it probably hit the bulkhead within 30 seconds. And everyone's standing around wondering, oh my God, they're going to botch this. And they're looking at the video.
Well, a couple of things here. One, Cantlay just threw him under the bus.
Correct. That was going to be my next point. Is Cantlay brought that on. Hovland was right the entire time. He knew exactly where he needed to be, and Cantlay said, "Let's play it really, really safe and call in a rules official."
Well, because JT was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." Like, I don't. That wasn't his words, but it was essentially like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure this would happen." And Hovland and his caddy were. And what was weird was when he first hit the shot, he said, "Did it cover?" And I think his caddy might have, I guess, seen it, because caddy was adamant about it, that it covered, cleared the water so that he would be able to drop on that side. But the whole thing was like, I was like, what are we doing? Like, and the thing that frustrated me was it feels like there's such inconsistency around, well, we've got cameras on all the holes this week, so now we get to look at them, but there's more people out here, right? That was the whole thing going back to Tory. But it's like this relationship between the rules official and the player is so inconsistent. Because at Tory, it was, well, I didn't really see what happened, so just, I guess, do whatever you're doing with Patrick Reed. And on this, it was like, well, I didn't really see what happened, so just be conservative and play it safe. And you're like, well, this is like, the way this is adjudicated is just nonsense. Like, there has to be, and I think ultimately, and I think this isn't really how it played out, although it kind of was. Ultimately, the player has to just kind of own whatever it is they believe happened.
Right.
And that's kind of what Hovland was getting at. But then the rules official was pushing him the other way. The whole thing was it's really weird, dude. It's not great. It's not a great situation.
It's really hard for Hovland to own his decision that he's comfortable with while a rules official is telling him something different. And
and that's the unintended consequence, right? Of always calling in a rules official.
And the other thing is, and he took this like, as you can imagine, smiling throughout the whole thing. But when it came across that said, I think it probably hit the bulkhead, Victor Hovland, in the nicest way possible, said, I'd be very surprised if that's what happened, or something like that.
I think he said, I find that very hard to believe.
I find it very hard to believe.
But then it was like, I felt bad for all those guys because it got turned into a huge mess. He makes double. Cantlay and JT were rattled. It was not a good situation. And then later on, he gets another penalty. Well, he called the penalty on himself afterwards, which, yeah, I don't know. It's an unintended consequence of always having to call in a rules official. That when you're confident of what happened yourself, because everybody calls in a rules official, you have to go with that, even if it doesn't benefit you.
Yes, and what he did later was marked his ball to get out of JT's line and moved it to the left. And then instead of moving his mark back to the right, he moved it left again and then putted from there and gets assessed a two-shot penalty, goes from making par to making double. So,
yeah, it was. This is what I'm talking about. You just throw these guys out there into this huge championship and we talk about crazy. It's crazy to us. Probably the broader public is like, I don't care. But yeah, to us, it's wild.
Sergio Garcia is your betting favorite to close this out. 2 shots clear, 7 under. He's 5.5 to 1. Thanks to our friends over at William Hill. Bryson DeChambeau is 9 to 1. We've got Matthew Fitzpatrick at 14. Fitzpatrick played Great, by the way. I like that number. You know, we mentioned Colin Morikawa. He's 18-1. That's the guy who lost a ton of strokes putting. He hit a ball from the fairway into the water on 16 on a par 5. That probably doesn't happen again, KP. Any numbers on here that you think might be worth an extra look over the course of the next few hours?
It's probably let's see here. It's probably Morikawa at 18. We already talked about that. Fitzpatrick is at 14 is interesting. At some point, you and I on Thursday evening are just finally going to have to say Matthew Fitzpatrick's really good at golf, and we should start believing in him.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
He lost a stroke putting on Thursday.
Yes, he is the so I just do a very routine calculation of like, okay, if you hit it as well as you did from tee to green and everyone goes back to their putting baseline, like who can move the most? And it was Matthew Fitzpatrick because he's such a good putter and he lost a stroke putting. It's like that's a very, very barbaric way of seeing who's kind of underneath their baseline with the flat stick.
I think Day at 28 is also interesting. He gained 5 strokes tee to green and lost 2 with his putter, and he's interesting too because his history here is pretty good. He's obviously won here, but he's had other performances where he was pretty solid. So I don't know. Do I envision Jason Day winning this weekend? Not really, but at 28, I think that's a decent number based on how he played on Thursday.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think we're going to see, especially, I mean, listen, there's probably going to be more carnage out there on Friday. These odds might flip on their head by the time we do this 24 hours from now. KP, 1 round in the books. Anything else? We're already over time, so producer Jacob can't say anything.
Phil 71. Did not see that coming.
Nope.
I thought JT 71 was kind of big time. Like he had an opportunity to play himself out of it and he didn't. And he could shoot 68 on Friday and be in it. Do you think Rory will make the cut?
No, he's going to have to shoot. So I think the cut's going to be 1 or 2 over, and he's at what, 7?
Yeah,
no, he's going to have to shoot the round of the day tomorrow.
I wrote that he'd have to shoot 67 or 68 to make the cut. Which, the thing on 18, it's like what is this? Like what are we doing?
I don't know. I'm sure we'll talk more about it.
I thought he was going to shoot 43-29. Sorry. We can
That would have been cool. I saw that tweet. I thought that would have gotten me off. That would have gotten me all fired up. That would have been good. That's Kyle Porter. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can follow me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.